Salute. Wote. Emi lo latimo mohoye. The day alafia. Divine risings and rotation. Beloved army. Beloved army. Hmm. Umoja. Unity. When I think of unity, I think of the way that the roots of the most strongest trees entwine themselves together and extend themselves to the farthest distance possible for their extension. That means they're touching a long way. They're doing big things under the earth, under the soil, so they could do bigger things beyond the soil, outside of the soil. See, there's no bigger things outside of the soil before the big things that are happening in the soil. It is about how the planting process takes place. If you're planting in bad soil, if you're not going deep enough when planting, or if you went too deep when planting, it's going to determine how the extension, the breakthrough is going to happen. A tree with no roots is a fake tree. It's an imbalanced tree. It's a tree that the moment that the wind rushes too hard, or something or someone leans too strong, it's going to change and either fall over or lose its footing, lose its position, be pushed to the side. You are only as relevant as your roots. And this is why it's important to look into your roots, to overstand your roots, to respect your roots. See, this is why it's important to have roots. Now, we went through a time, especially in this country. Many of us in the diaspora are still going through this time, even though we think we're in the land of our birthright, our home, our origin, and we think we're in the root because we're in the land, but the land is not the root, it's the people. And a long time ago, a lot of the original people either willingly uprooted themselves to extend, or they were ripped up out of the soils. Ripped, that's a forceful process. Out of the, have you ever removed weeds? Or ripped something from the ground, even a tree? Oh, it's not an easy process. That's why a lot of times people leave just a stump. Or they cut it real low and you constantly stumbling over the penetration part, the part that's penetrating the earth. They were ripped up and they were taken abroad. They were taken to many places, and some deliberately traveled to many places to extend ourselves. You know, not to hundreds of years later, thousands of years later, convince ourselves or each other that we are not ourselves or each other, to separate ourselves or each other because we are lost, because we are the same people everywhere. Because before we were anywhere, we were everywhere. And I don't want nobody to think that I'm speaking physical when I say that. I'm talking spiritual when I say that. I'm talking about the science, the math, the absolutes. Before we were tangible, we were all things that became tangible. So again, as I say all the time, this place is called a Sasaya, Mother Earth. So no matter where I am, I'm home. As they say, home is where the heart is. But understand that the heart has to be at the root, or you'll constantly find yourself toiling around over and over and over again, trying to figure shit out. No matter how high of a level you get intellectually, no matter how high of a level you think you've gotten spiritually, no matter how high of a level you think you've gotten in your understanding and your wisdom. I think every time we've gained a level, we thought we were at our heights until we willingly or were forcefully exposed to something that elevated that height. Noble Durali told us we were Moors, but it wasn't supposed to stop there. We were more. What he was teaching us was we have to have a nationality. America is not a nation. It's a corporation designed by Puritans, Pilgrims, Westerners, Babylonians, Europeans, Caucasians, Caucasoids, however you want to go about dealing with it. That's who described this term. It's literally a derivative from Amerigo Vespucci. So as long as we sit around calling ourselves Americans, we are calling ourselves slaves to those who have given it its name. And the same thing applies to those who are in the continent that call themselves Africans. You are literally just slaves to Leo, whatever other Afrikaners came, saw, and devoured or violated. And as long as we continue to teach those things and preach those things, we are perpetuating the further enslavement, mentally and physically, of our youth. We are disgracing our ancestors who were everywhere and are still everywhere and in everything. Listen, balance, my truth, justice, harmony, balance, truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, balance, order, reciprocity. You can't have one of those things without connecting simultaneously all the others, or you'll be imbalanced. You'll find yourself participating in this fact. Elijah Muhammad later started telling us that we were a lost and found nation. Again, extending the reality that in order to gain a power, you have to gain self-sufficiency. In order to gain self-sufficiency, you cannot be describing yourself in a manner that your enslaver or your deceiver, your devil, whatever you want to call it, has taught you or called you. All these terms that we use until we start defining our own terms. Or Mattel terms, they're toy terms, they're terms that were surged into our minds like they used to be surged on our backs and in other places. They're surged in the middle of our heads, and that surge, that burning, that smear is fucking up our third eye. The beloved Marcus Mosiah Garvey from Jamaica was telling us we need to repatriate back to, he used the word Africa, but in later terms he understood that no, we have to repatriate, not back to a land, but back to a state of mind that is our ancestors. Fuck the name. That name ain't our name. We have to get back to our ancestral selves. And then no matter where we are, we'll be who we're supposed to be. But until we're wholly back to our ancestral selves, making sacrifices that's going to hurt, there's no such thing as a sacrifice that doesn't hurt. No such thing. And so if you consider yourself elevating with ease, you are deceiving yourself. And you are allowing yourself to be deceived, because there's no easy elevation. There's no easy revolution. There's no easy fight. If you have an easy fight, you're fighting the wrong opponent. If you have an easy elevating, you're just converting to some bullshit. And then later, that teaching from Marcus Garvey became the Rasta teaching, which, let me explain something to you, because many people know nothing about what Rasta means. People think that Rasta is some movement from Jamaica. No, Rasta is actually a Punjabi word. And it means path, route, road, way, trail, spiritually journeyed, life. So a true Rasta, like myself, is one who journeys through the paths of life in order to regain my ras, my head, my crown. So we look too much into one individual's philosophies of something instead of looking into the etymology of something. Because now we start to say that we're Ethiopian. Again, a lesson given for us to understand the importance that until we are connected to a nation, we will have no power. Not for us 70 years later, 80 years later, to still be saying we're Ethiopians when we understand that even the Ethiopians have been deceived. Parag, why would you say the Ethiopians have been deceived? Because the Ethiopians have allowed themselves to call themselves and be called by Greek terminology. Their whole land has been colonized to the point that it's not even called its original self no more. So how could you be an Ethiopian? A burnt skin? Who walks around and says, hey, burnt skin? Because that's what that means. Burnt skin. That's an insult more than a compliment. Like colored, like black, like nigger, and whatever else we've called spade, and whatever else we choose to call ourselves, brand ourselves with, scar ourselves with. But that lesson wasn't meant for us to stay in. It was meant for us to elevate to the next level, because to be an Ethiopian was better than to be nothing. Black. Some shit that ain't even got no connection to no land. And so you continue to grow. Movements are created, and these are all movements, are created to evolve, not stop at someone who's no longer present. Messiahs are living now. You keep looking for dead people to guide and lead you and save you and deliver you. Messiahs are living now. And if you start acknowledging and seeing and embracing and supporting the Messiahs that live now, even the ones that live in yourself, you'll find yourself more successful. You'll find yourselves more unified. Stay focused, stay positive, stay around focused and positive people. Never lose who you are once you know who you are. Never sacrifice who you are for nothing and nobody. Don't just wake up. Get out of the bed and stay out of the bed and assist others in rising from that slumber. Alafia farana wo monife rela ni di wope aka si makayeri on yon kupon aka kayeri en frama. Umuntu enga bantu. Lai ni waju korisa ken fiete. Ya soto eto farako bachi. Nakupenda usifiwe. Nakupenda usifiwe. Nakupenda usifiwe. Salute. Peace and motivation. Wholeness and motivation. Have an illuminating day. Love y'all. Immortal.